So I felt like you guys deserved a video where I go a bit more in depth with the Half-Life sound design, like actually showing you something that I've making live. You guys can follow along. I'm telling you how I'm making it. Around 2 years ago now, I released a video on this channel which was called "How to Create Half-Life 2 Music," and I I got a lot of flack for it in a Discord server, which was odd to me, but that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, and I felt like, well, you know, maybe I was wrong on a lot of things. Now, some critiques, I don't agree with, some I do. And I feel like you guys deserve a bit something that's a bit more in depth, that's going to teach you something, and you're actually going to learn. This is an entirely unscripted video. I have, I have no script whatsoever. I'm very subconscious about my voice, but I'm just saying, fuck it, we ball. So, I am in Reason right now. I have my synth hooked up. That is my System 1 that you can hear. And that will be the workhorse for what we're doing. I'm having to scuff this a bit because for some reason OBS does not like it, or some sort of thing is going on. It's I can only record my voice in OBS, not the synth coming out of it, because it's using the ASIO drivers in Reason, so it's not getting the output from Reason. So I'm gonna have to try and sync this up. So sorry, I do apologize if this does not sound entirely synced up. I will try my best in post. But right here, I've got my to adjust my microphone a little bit and bring it forward. So right now, I've got my System 1 that is being used. I've heard some people compare it to the Roland JP8000. They have a similar kind of design. Don't quote me on that, actually, I don't know if that's actually true. They just sound similar. And, if you're going to make some Half-Life music, you want to use something like this. These are not that expensive compared to a JP8000, and you get half the features for a sound that I wouldn't say is exactly the same. I think the filter is a bit different, but they're very much similar. So I'm on a default patch right now. It's a simple saw wave. We're going to try and make one of those Jupiter pad sounds that we hear a lot in Half-Life 2. And this is specifically going for Half-Life 2, though some of these sounds would work in Half-Life 1. We're going to start with a simple F-sharp note. This is what Kelly likes to use a lot. We want to mess with the cutoff and sort of filter frequency and resonance a bit. So you kind of want low cutoff. You don't want a low pass filter. You want a full-on 12 dB, because you want that warmth that comes with it a bit, and then you want to kind of just turn the cutoff up, maybe turn the resonance up a bit, but not crazy. Although you can do just, you can do. So this is me messing with the low pass sort of type, but I'm gonna keep it like this. Now, best thing to do with this is you want a bit of movement, so I can put the color up on this. Because this is the System 1, you want to mess with the oscillators. You get a super saw. Super saw was a standard, it was a massive thing back in the 90s, and more synths need it. Now, I can put some color. See, we're already getting there. Turn the reverb on this, delay a bit, turn up the time just there a bit. Now the attack is also really important. You want to really put a bit more attack in that, and the reverb. But it's all about live tweaking as well. I'm going to turn up the resonance here. Try it with the 24 dB. Or is this 24 dB? I'm kind of stupid. So You're really getting that kind of Half-Life tone there. We can go a bit deeper on the octave there. Like a traveling through a limbo kind of thing. But that's cool. Now you wanna turn back the color down a bit here. Turn up the second oscillator. You could slightly detune it. You get a nice sound there. Now on this synth, you can kind of sacrifice some of the polyphony for a unison, which is what this sound really excels in. You get that kind of so you get that kind of really dark kind of sound just by adding a bit of movement, detuning, messing with the thing, that kind of saw wave. A normal saw wave can work. We'll actually try it. Kind of. Do you really just want that sound? But you can use any type of low pass filter you want. Let's try out a bit of a mod end in this. You don't have to care that much about key tracking. So that sound is very, very used a lot in Half-Life. It's a very, very used sound. Let's try and do something else that would appear in Half-Life. Some of the more lead sounds that you can kind of hear it sometimes. If I make this go up a bit. Put the legato on that. You want maybe some super saw. So maybe a bit less. Like you don't really hear this in that track, but you hear some sounds that are similar to this. Which I'm trying to model it off of one of my earlier sounds here. which is a really nice sound. This is a really nice sound. Um, Such a really rich sound. And I forgot how to make this patch entirely. Um, so there is a bit of a mystery in that. I can remember making this, seeing a certain patch that was used. Um, but regardless, I think that you can kind of like this sound, um, which was, which does sound really Half-Lifey. I think what we should do is we should try and make like a bass sound. Now, Half-Life basses are usually very synth or just electric bass, but for a synth bass, you just want to go. You want to add a bit of that. Put a bit of a legato on that. Get the tack a bit, it's a bit clippy in it. Make sure all the effects are not on. Yeah, see what I mean? Get a nice, just. Yeah, there's a bit crusher on this as well, so you can make some even more cool sounds. So I'm just experimenting right now, and sorry if I'm a bit silent, I like to concentrate. So that's a nice kind of thing you've got on there. That kind of soft synth kind of warmthness to it, though you can turn off that a bit. Just that kind of big bassy thing that you hear a lot in some tracks. There's a difference though. Guard Down's bass uses an A station patch, and the A station's filter is more. It's a bit. It's a different filter compared to the JP8000, and it does show. And this, I'd say the A station has a drier filter, whilst the JP8000 has a more wet kind of sound to it. And Kelly used both for various different sounds, so like, when I say wet, I don't necessarily mean it's like the A station can't do that sound, but I mean it in more of a sense that the A station has a certain character to it that not a lot of other synths have. I mean, the same goes to the 8000s as well. Well, there are some popular sounds, but this is the issue that I've always ran into when it comes to making videos like this, is there are so many different sounds used in Half-Life. Like, you can look at multi-layered patches using samplers, which is what was used for Guard Down's piano and probably used for some other tracks as well. That's the thing, is Kelly used lots of different resources and lots of different synths to get different kinds of the same sounds in a way. Like, one track it's JP8000, the other it's A Station, the other is MKS50, which is the rack version of the Alpha Juno. The other, he might use he might use MC303 in this track, but then everything else is sampled, or make a track entirely out of samples. And he didn't have to do that, but he did. It does show you that a lot of the sound design of Half-Life 2 and just Half-Life in general came from those sample CDs. It was only in the episodes where his composition became a lot more unique and original. And I would have to show you my A Station to get into that entirely different side of Half-Life music. But Half-Life music, at least on the synths, usually is either some sort of sampled CD, a sample CD with some sound, or it's one of these kinds of sounds with the pads. You know, that is generally what he's doing. Like, that's what Kelly's doing here. He's just using this very simple sound. That really rich sound, you hear it a lot, you know? Oh, sorry, bumped my mic there. Turn up everything with effects. This is some sort of Ravenholm kind of sound. And that's a lot of that Half-Life sound. When you have this sound down, you have it already there. So you have that nice sound, but you also have some weirder sounds. And I had this from one of my tracks that I didn't show. It's a different one. Here you are. Using drones, like just very simple power chords. And then having the filter do a lot of work. Messing with the resonance and filter, and kind of having that a louder version of this, sorry, not louder, the higher notes, less of the unison maybe. just... Here's the actual chord. It's not really a power chord, but it's this simple... And then maybe you want to... That sound. Do you hear similar sounds to this? Like, probably not a problem. Well, you don't actually. That sound, like, it's a very inspired sound. That it feels like you'd hear some random game, but you probably wouldn't. You can tell this is not scripted whatsoever. But let's try and make a simple kind of like that. Maybe you want to get a bit more into the Portal side of things. So let's get a bit simple here. Let's set oscillator 1 like a saw, and then oscillator 2 is a like square. We'll make oscillator 1 pretty normal, like no color or things to it, but we'll add a lot of that to oscillator 2 and make that audible. Make it so it's like 12 dB. Turn up resonance a bit. Put some effects on. So we have this kind of warm sound, and you'll probably guess where this is from. Lower pass filter type. And it's just this simple oscillator 1 with a simple oscillator 2 and detuning on the second oscillator, or both. A lot of it's carried in the effects and reverb. For Portal 1 sounds, it really benefits to have some stuff added in post, like shimmer kind of reverb. Those sounds are very, very distinct, and you can get some instant Portal 1 sounding stuff with shimmer reverb. I highly encourage you guys to look into shimmer reverb. It's very, very good. I wonder if Kelly used his specific unit for it a lot more, but it wasn't just shimmer reverb that unit had. That was the Eventide DSP 4000, which was very expensive now. I have a friend who's managed to get his hands on that and make some interesting discoveries. But in saying that, I might make another video with the A station and kind of showing whatnot, or how that works a bit more, because that's a bit of a different synth and you can get some different sounds out of that. But I find that these sounds are the ones that the JP 8000 kind of made, but using the System 1, you can get some similar sounds. And if you want any specific sound, like ideas of how to make sounds, like such as the that one sound in Apprehension and Evasion, actually, have I got a surprise for you? I think before we end this video, I will kind of tell you guys how to make that sound. Here it is. Ooh, what a lovely sound! Oh, so good! Has a bit of legato at the end there. I like this. And it's just that lovely sound. That is the original patch for this comes from the JP8000, and that one was called Resonance Chord, and basically it's to use, I believe it's a single oscillator. The idea is to get a super saw waveform, and you want to basically add you want to add some resonance to it, and you want to add a mod envelope, or a filter envelope, to be more specific, that basically makes it go from the high to the low. So to give an example of what I mean by this, I'm going to get a simple sine wave. A simple sine wave. Mess with the cutoff, try and get it exact. Turn down the sustain or the decay. The decay. It's the decay and the sustain. Maybe I wanna... that kind of... that's the kind of like what I'm thinking. You start from that, and it's like, you know, it's how you can make some nice rises and falling things. Those kinds of sounds. And then put some unison on that, and then, you know, there's a distortion and chorus put in the thing, because you get that kind of distorted, like, sine wave thing at the end. Which, you know, that's why it's like a JP8000. I think this does it. Just kind of getting the basics. I know this is never going to be as depth as I want, you know, as in depth as I want it to be. But I feel like if you're going for that kind of more synth direction, you want to use something like this. You want to use something like the System 1, because that's the closest to the JP8000 you can get. Or, you know, use plugins. You can get the sound. There is a JP8000 emulation out there. The only thing is you need the ROMs from the actual unit to use it. But there are ways. I will not support this. I do not condone, you know, but no. you know. Um, but there's also a lot of other things you can do in this. You could put an LFO to control the filter. Um, the thing with Half-Life music and kind of all tutorials like this is I kind of assume you know what you're doing with a synth, but if you don't, I am not the place you want to come to learn the basics of how to use a synth. You know, as I've always said, what you want to do is you need to listen to what your favorite tracks contain. You need to listen to what your favorite tracks contain. Like that Apprehension and Evasion Saw, that is a sound I really like, so I listened to it and then, played it back ear from ear, playing it over, and kind of comparing, contrasting what this sound has and what this sound didn't have, and then trying to get close to that sound as possible. You can use AI to, look at the sound and, hey, is this sound close to this? AI is not always good though, it's not reliable in a lot of cases, but that is something you can do. It has helped me a bit, but most of it is by ear. That is how you should be as a musician. And as a sound designer, you should be doing this by ear. You should be listening for what your stuff is doing. And that goes for not just that, it goes for mixing and mastering and a bunch of other things. But knowing your tools is also very important as well. Knowing how to use your synth will be very important. It'd be very hard to do this on a Roland D110 or a Yamaha FP01 using a software editor than compared to something like this. So I shall leave you all off. Feel free to ask me anything in the comments below. I'm a loser and I have no life, so I will be able to respond to all your concerns. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye bye.